Hello, Soraya, it's Jeff.
Hey!
So today we have a special guest.
Oh man, the specialist.
In a couple minutes, we're going to give Steve Wynn of Dream Syndicate a call.
Isn't that pretty awesome?
I'm super excited. All right, well, let's get started.
Sounds good. Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage, Raspberry, and Rhyme.
A podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, agruviado.
Let's get groovy.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Steve Wynn. This is Jeff and Soraya.
Hey, Jeff and Soraya, how you doing?
All right, it worked. Yay, technology.
Good to talk to you. I enjoy your podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. We have a plethora of questions, and we know that we've got some limited time, so we're going to just work our way through it.
Good. I'm here to answer all your questions. I might even remember some things went down.
All right, Jeff, how do you want to start?
Did you have an introduction, Soraya?
I do. And for our listeners today, we have a real treat. So with us today, joining us is Steve Wynn. So just a couple of things. I mean, it would take me an hour just to go through all his accomplishments and his contributions, but just give me a couple minutes. So first of all, we're talking about...
Take your time.
Steve, do you really want me to get this out? I'll do it. But just really briefly, everyone, Steve Wynn, an amazing musician and storyteller. And when I say musician, just walk with me through this. Okay, so from Suspects to 15 Minutes to Dream Syndicate to solo work, which includes Danny and Dusty, Gutterball, Hazel Mote's Baseball Project, and something that I'm dying to ask about later on, Steve Sings Bob. But not only that, folks, we're talking about someone who already has a tribute album from a man of mysteries and has a newly released in April of this year, 2018, a book of complete lyrics from 1982 to 2017, which I'm suspecting is merely volume 1. I'm expecting the next 2, 3, 5 volumes coming soon. But also, as many of us as fans know, this is a man who does a lot of shows, over 100 shows a year across numerous countries. Ladies and gentlemen, please, words fail me, but Steve Wynn.
That was so well put. Thank you. That summed it up. That's like 35 years, like that, like a flash of an eye.
And I did forget to add that he's also a painter, but
yes,
hobbyist, yeah.
So, Steve, there is so much that Soraya and I were talking about in preparing this call with you, and there's so much work that you've done, and we had a really hard time of narrowing down what we wanted to talk about. But one of the things that we wanted to highlight was the release of 3x4. But before we start on that, we wanted to ask you, from a general standpoint, how did Dream Syndicate find themselves as part of the Paisley Underground?
Well, we, around the beginning of 1982, when all the bands kind of started, sort of formed and started doing records, we just found each other because we were sort of anomalies in the LA scene. We were, I say it in the line runs to 3x4, but I say it all the time. We were all music fans who happened to be musicians. We were, we had very, as you do when you're young, we had very specific tastes of what we liked, of what was good, and anything that we didn't think was good wasn't. And as the way things were going at the time in the music scene around 80, 81 in the U.S. and kind of all around, things had shifted away from what we loved, shifted away from guitars and the 60s kind of music we all sort of enjoyed, and the sound of the bands playing a real natural, organic, in the basement, garage rock, whatever you want to call it, kind of sound. And so I can't speak for the members of the other bands, but I know I was always on the hunt for bands to play the kind of music I liked. It was not easy to find that. There were a few bands for me before discovering the Bangs, the Salvation Army, the Rain Parade, I was kind of I was excited by bands like the Fleshtones in New York, or the DBs out in New Jersey, or the Last and the Unclaimed in L.A., maybe the Gun Club, a couple bands in England like Orange Juice, or Echo and the Bunnymen, or Tear Up Explodes, or a few other. The Fall were a big favorite, but there were so few bands doing the kind of music that I liked, that I wanted to hear. So when I started to hear these other bands, it was exciting. And I was working at the time at Rhino Records, the record store in Westwood. I was kind of doing a lot of things. I was sort of halfway, very lazily worked my way through an English major at UCLA, DJing at a club called the Cafe Grand in Hollywood, and working at the record store, and kind of idly thinking about forming a band and continue and writing songs and playing music, which I'd been doing for since I was 9 years old, but was getting a little, I don't know, maybe disenchanted, because I thought, the kind of music I like, nobody wants to hear this. So to sort of embellish on the timeline you were making, I made a record called 15 Minutes that you were mentioning, which was just me doing a couple songs on a TAC 3340 4-track recorder in my basement apartment. And I figured, I'm going to do this single so I can say that I made a single that I liked. I can say when I'm 90 years old, this is what I did. Your grandpa Steve, when he was a kid, did this, this kind of music, whatever, and then I'd be done with it because it just wasn't going to work out. But through doing that single and kind of, maybe working at the store, I started playing with, Kendra Smith, who I'd known from before in Davis. I'm giving a long-winded answer. I apologize.
Yeah.
I started playing with Kendra, and then met Carl Burkota, and we started playing this kind of really rambling, long jams of, Creedence songs and the Modern Lover songs and my sort of, embryonic Dream Syndicate songs in his basement, and thought, well, this kind of music we're doing it may not be what people want to hear. It may not be kind of, in step with anything that's fashionable, but we're kind of liking this. And we just did it to amuse ourselves and really didn't think much beyond that. We really didn't think, we would ever play a show or make a record, but we were, I guess, having fun with it. And it wasn't until Kendra said, I know Dennis Duck from the band Human Hands. He's a friend of mine. Maybe he'd like to come jam with us. That things sort of started to change, because we all knew Human Hands. They were a band who made records and played the Whiskey A Go-Go and were really good, actually. And when she said that, we thought, well, there's no way that Dennis Duck, the drummer of Human Hands, he's not going to want to play with ragamuffins like us. But he did come by on a really rainy Monday night, drove from Pasadena all the way to West LA with his drums and loaded them in, and played with us for about 2 hours and taped it on his boombox, and then went home. And really was much as he is now, sort of understated and keeps his cards close to the vest. And I thought, well, I bet he regretted that, because I thought he's wondering why the hell he came out on a rainy night to play Suzy Q for 2 hours. But okay, that was an experience. A couple days later, I called him up and I said, out of courtesy, I said, Dennis, thanks for coming out and playing with us. That was really cool. It was great to play with you. I just want to see if you heard the tape you made. He said, I've been listening to nothing but that tape for the last 2 days. It's the best music I've heard in so long. I want to play with you guys. And I think that was the moment when we realized, well, maybe we are a band. Maybe we can play shows. And we recorded, just 3 weeks later, the 4 songs became our first EP, only so that we could get gigs, just so we could, have something to bring to club owners. And, from that point forward, that's where I pick up with the question you were giving me, you asked. From that point forward, it all moved so fast. We suddenly had this demo tape that became an EP that we started playing shows left and right. And right around the same time, I think within weeks of that, singles started being brought into the record store I was working by, the Salvation Army. And I heard that and I said, what is this? This is so good. I can't, this is unlike anything I have heard, and this thing I want to be hearing more of. And also around the same time, and I'm pretty sure about this. I always mean to ask Vicki if this was what happened. I believe Vicki and Sue, as she was then, came into the Rhino store with their single, wanting to leave copies on consignment and asking if I had any advice on how to package their single in plastic sleeves, and I was able to help them with that from what I've learned in 15 minutes. So this all was happening very quickly at that point. Just sort of, it went from definite famine to a very small feast of music that was exciting us.
Wow.
Oh, I love that.
Did I kind of answer your question there? That's a long ways around to say, yeah, it all happened.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's a great story. Soraya, didn't you find a quote?
Yeah. So when I came across this quote, and the context was, it was an interview that you were giving about the reissue of Days of Wine and Roses. A similar question was posed about how Dream Syndicate, whose sound was really different than some of the other Paisley Underground bands, found themselves in this scene. And the quote from you was, "We felt like we were the dirtball weirdo stepbrothers in the Paisley family." And when I read that quote, it just blew me away because, I think so many of us see this scene and we see Dream Syndicate as being so much a real central piece of this. To think otherwise is just curious.
Well, maybe I'm being a little self-deprecating when I say that, but in a way it's true, because I think that, we were maybe, I don't know, in some ways, it's hard to think the timeline of what came in what order, but I think, maybe we were, a week ahead as far as having, playing shows and being, doing shows on the scene, but it was so close to around the same time that we were all moving at the same pace in what we were doing. But I just say, because, I think I say it with really no false modesty. I think that the Salvation Army and the Bangs were probably more, if not better musicians, definitely more disciplined and more able to kind of put together a really well played, well arranged 3-minute pop song than we were. We were just a sprawling mess, and we were proud of it. We would, I think at the center of what we were doing with the songs I was writing, which were, they were pop songs. I mean, the When You Smile, and That's What You Always Say, and Some Kind of Itch. They are kind of verse, chorus with a hook, with, things you can hum. But the way we played them was just to attack them and turn them inside out and throw noise all over them, which was what we wanted to do. I mean, it obviously Tommy got compared a lot to the Velvet Underground, in my opinion, way too much, and I was defensive about it at the time, because I thought we were, as I used to say, well, yeah, we're ripping off the Velvets, we're ripping off a lot of bands, and that's true. We were kind of getting a lot from all kinds of stuff, but we were picking up that thing from the Velvets where we would take a pretty simple song you could play on your acoustic guitar like Lou Reed would write, and then just having no reverence for, what it represented. Just like, well, now you hear this pretty pop song, we're going to just trash it before your eyes. We're going to shred it like a Banksy painting. We're going to willfully destroy it. And I think that set us apart from the other bands, because you would go see, of course, the Bangs and Salvation Army. They were just, they were also very punky and very wild and unhinged in their own ways. They definitely weren't, they weren't, manicured and too neat, but they were more, a little more, for lack of a better word, more pro than we were.
And I think, especially kind of circling back to 3x4, we hear this distinct sound of each and every band. And so, I have to admit that I agree with what you're saying, that, Dream Syndicate really had its own sound and its own rhythm and its own cadence, and the other bands did too. And I think it really comes together in this really kind of beautiful symphony in 3x4.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that's how we all, it can't be understated anyway how much we all loved each other at the time, as friends, but also as for the music we were making. I mean, I can look back now to all the differences, and definitely the Salvation Army had, and by the way, I keep leaving the Rain Parade out in a way, because they were a couple months behind this initial burst. But hearing Salvation Army with their really full on punk rock kind of thing they were doing at the beginning, and the Bangs of the Pop thing, but we still all really if I had to say in January or February 1982 who were my favorite bands in the world, I would say, yeah, those two bands. They were great. And when I see them live, they was fantastic. So it was a full-on, unabashed excitement for each other. And I think each of the bands really were excited by the things the other bands could do that we didn't do. So I would see the Bangs with their beautiful harmonies, that they would do and really, just tight, no nonsense arrangements. And I see the Salvation Army, which is being able to just be like a full-on mod punk, roar that they were doing. But they would probably look at us and say, how exciting these guys are playing feedback, and mixing that kind of chaos with the gentleness of the melody. So I think each of us found a thing in the other bands that we didn't have that we admired.
Yeah, so one of the quotes that Matt Piucci said while we were having a conversation with him was, who would not want to play as Dream Syndicate with that full-on attack? So
that's funny.
Yeah, that was funny. And I totally get it. I totally get that. So that brings us to 3x4. And our understanding is that you, Vicky, and Danny Benair came up with this idea at the Paisley Underground show in 2013. Is there anything that you could tell us about that?
Well, yeah, it's funny that when those shows were put together, and I think, and I think I had this right, because you think by now we'd remember everything, but I believe that all started with Luis Gutierrez, because I think he was putting together a benefit show and had the idea to put the four bands together. I hope I'm right about that, because I should remember how that. But basically, the idea was put forward to put. I think at that point, all four bands were active. We had just started playing again. I know the Bangles have been playing 3 o'clock. I think all of us were active, and the idea was put forward, and we all said yes, and we all thought it would be a lot of fun. But the thing is, it's not easy, because that's a lot of people and a lot of schedules and a lot of just logistics and travel. So L.A. and San Francisco was not easy to pull off, but we all did it. And it's amazing that the shows were, I think you've mentioned you were at the L.A. show, right?
Yes.
At the Fonda?
That's correct.
Yeah, that was such a fun night. I mean, it was everything. It couldn't have gone better in any way. I mean, it was, people came out to see us play. The response was great. I think all four bands played as well as they ever had. Everybody, without even talking about it beforehand, stuck to a set list of their earliest material. It couldn't have been better, and we just were all flying after that weekend. How much fun we had! And I think once we kind of got over the high of the weekend, we thought, well, now what? And I think at that point, Vicky and Danny and I were communicating the most by email. We had been leading up to and after, and we all had the same feeling of like, we want to do more, but we don't know what we can do. And we quickly realized that playing other cities wouldn't be that easy, just because the cost of shifting people around. So we started thinking, let's at least do some kind of record. And we all agreed on that. And I think the initial idea was, since we'd done at the shows that weekend, we'd done some cool covers. I think we did There She Goes Again, and Time Will Show the Wiser, the Fairport song, and
Feel a Whole Lot Better? I think you did Feel a Whole Lot Better.
That's right. You're right. That was that one as well.
And then a Seeds song as well.
Oh, Pushing Too Hard.
Pushing Too Hard.
Oh, that's right. Pushing Too Hard. That's right. Great. That's right. That's right. So we did all those. So we thought, let's do a record like that. And I think that was, of course, the hardest thing doing a record like that would be agreeing on the songs, because, that kind of thing, even on that short encore shows of everybody's different tastes and sides, doing a Bird song, but then doing a Velvet song. And somehow in our discussions, we started thinking, why don't we just cover each other? And just seem like first of all, a really natural, mathematical, balanced, there's no debate about how many songs each band does, because you're going to be doing 3 songs. And also, I don't know, it had never been done before. We started thinking, we're all music fans and archivists, and we couldn't think of any scene in any time that had documented themselves that way. So it became like a natural thing to do, and we all just jumped on it.
It was such a brilliant idea.
Excellent.
It was fun from the conception to where it is now. I think and the thing is, when we first planned it, we had no label, we had no timetable, we just thought, let's find a way and make this happen. And of course, the next thing was, as we've all been talking about, we've had these immensely long email chains we're all on. I think you could take the emails that have been written within the Paisley Underground scene in the last 3 years and have a 5-volume book like, Tolstoy length. It's crazy how long these email chains go. And we always talk about how we're going to do this and do that. And everyone's very, we've all been doing it for a long time. We're all band leaders. We all have specific ideas about how things work. And so we just kept thinking of ways to do this. And luckily, and thanks to Danny, because Danny has been the one more than anyone who's really, really worked this hard and kind of talked to people outside our group about ways to make things happen. And he got in touch with Yep Rock, who loved the idea. And all of a sudden we went from having this theoretical, maybe someday, somehow discussion to we got to do it now. And I think we all recorded our tunes early this year pretty quickly.
So let's break down these tunes then, because was it easy or hard for you and the band to decide what you wanted to play by each?
Yeah, but I don't think there was much. If I remember right, there weren't that many cases of somebody wanting to do the same song as somebody else. So that I'm not sure. I know the 3 we wanted to do were fair game.
Okay.
And so that was. So I think that actually worked out pretty easily without any grief at all. Everybody, everybody got the songs they wanted. If I'm not mistaken. Nice. Maybe I could be corrected on that. But I know that we had our first choice for each of the other 3 bands, and that's what we did.
Okay, Hero Takes a Fall. Walk us through that, because I think Jeff and I both want to say Jeff and I both got the 3x4 on Record Store Day, and we've been listening to it pretty much nonstop. Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But as we read the liner notes and kind of walked through each of the choices, Hero Takes a Fall, was that just a real no-brainer?
Yeah, it was. I mean, once we had the concept, I just immediately thought, well, that's a song we have to do. I mean, it's been written about now and talked about, and it's in the liner notes, so I don't need to go into it too much. And my take on it might be wrong, but I believe that song's about me. And I think since then, Vicky and Susanna have said that it's kind of a composite thing, and it can say, it based on several people or just an idea of something. But yeah, I'll take some inspiration credit for that one, but for whatever level of truth there is to that, and they could verify or deny that, whatever. It is true that back in '84 I was on tour. The Dream Syndicate was on tour opening for REM, and Mark Walton, our bass player, who was I think he had certain connections to people who worked with him at the time. That's why he had the inside skinny on this. But I remember very well him getting on the tour bus one morning, just all delighted to tell me that song was about me. He said, I heard that song was about you. And at that point, it was already kind of going up the charts and was a big hit. And, it was a mix of emotions because several things at one time. One is that I loved the song before I even knew that, and I was really happy for and excited about the Bengals getting the success they were getting. It was just, there was no, this is a whole other thing, but there really wasn't jealousy or unhealthy competition. The only competition the bands had, I think, was just if one band wrote a great song, you wanted to write a song equally great, But so they were doing well. I was happy about that. And then at the same time, it's a pretty brutal song. It's a no holds barred, ragging on some guy who's become too big for his britches is going to get his comeuppance, and turns out that guy is me, and that I felt a little bit maybe hurt and a tiny bit flattered at the same time. There was all that went through my head. I definitely wasn't, I wasn't angry. I know that, and I wasn't, and I wasn't even that bummed really, but I was just kind of blindsided is the best word. Anyway, so when this whole concept came up, it's like, well, if we're doing a Bengals song, it's got to be that one, and also the thing is, I think at the heart of that song, outside of the harmonies and the production and everything else, it's just a great groove song. And it's kind of one thing I would say about the Dream Syndicate is more than being a noise band or a guitar band or a feedback band, we're a groove band. If you listen to the earliest grooves of Dennis and Kendra, that's kind of our main thing, is we just the bass and drums lay down, a circular thing, and then we do our thing on top of that. So Here It Takes a Fall is at its essence almost like, it could be a krautrock song from the 70s was sort of what we had in mind, but it went its own direction.
Well, we're waiting for the live show so we can hear this groove band song just really take off. So we
played it live. We did play it live at the Roxy with Vicky, and that was great. So I think it might become a staple.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys nailed it on the recording. We love it.
Thank you. I did hear your broadcast on the record, so I've heard the very, very frank comments. But I know that there was some, I think, comment about it's such a jarring difference from the original, and that's of course with any time you cover a song, people could hear your version and say, "Wow, I have to get used to that because I'm so used to the way it sounds." Which I think the same way. So I know there's some of that, but I like the way we did it. I think it came out. It sounds like us, like us doing that song. We kind of managed to keep our. I think of the ones we did, that's the one we kind of transformed it the most, maybe. It's hard to say.
Yeah. I think that's the brilliance of 3x4, is you reinterpreting these songs and your interpretations coming through in the recordings. It just makes this a brilliant record.
I remember the day that, because, we didn't really talk that much among the four bands about, timetables and plans, and even in a few cases, songs we were going to do was kind of, we tried to keep it a little bit as a surprise for each other. And I remember the day that I got the download code for the whole album from Yep Rock, and I was walking around where I live here in Queens, and I sat down in the park and listened on my headphones, and it was like Christmas morning, just hearing how everybody approached it. It was so exciting. I said, made sure I had a big tall cup of coffee in my hand and sat, by myself and just really took it all in. And I was, of course, we're always excited by each band by what we did, and I like our versions. But I was thrilled to hear how the other bands did our songs, and they really they made them their own. Like, they're When You Smile is a Rain Parade song now, and That's You Always Say is a Bagel song, and Tell Me When It's Over is a 3 o'clock song, and that's just the way it is now, and I love all three interpretations.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hey, so You Are My Friend. Can you tell us a little bit about recording that Rain Parade song?
Yeah, that's I just love that song. I really love so many Rain Parade songs, and they're fantastic. But that was the one closest to my heart, not just because it's a great song, but also when it came out. And I've been trying to remember when that record, Explosions in the Glass Palace, the EP, came out. But I remember when it came out, it was not long after David had left David Roback had left the Rain Parade, which I think that song is about that, and Kendra had left the Dream Syndicate. So I really felt those words really intensely. The song is so much about, it's a bittersweet, melancholy reflection on when your friend, when somebody who you've been close to and had a friendship, working relationship, whatever, with it, goes their own way. And it's kind of it's sort of like a bon voyage, and it's it's on the surface you would think it's saying, and you'll always be my friend, and like a treacly, comment like that. But actually, it's also a little bit angry and bitter. Like, the key line to me, I had wrong actually, and I still saying it the way I heard it because I loved it so much. And that is, you say the knife is twisting in your back. You don't recall, and I thought the line was, "It wasn't mine," which I loved. The idea is like as though somebody is saying to you, "You stabbed me in the back," and I'm saying, the knife is in your back, but I didn't put it there. But the line, Matt corrected me. He said, no, I'm saying, you say the knife is twisting your back. You don't recall, it was in mine. Ooh. Totally different, like a whole different thing. And I heard him, when he told me that, I went, so that's what you're singing. Well, I'm going to sing it my way anyway. Because that line killed me when I heard it, because it's just the way you feel. It's like, you want to say to somebody who's blaming you for something that, you might be blaming me for something, or you might be, you might be saying that this is my responsibility or my doing, but really it kind of did it to yourself. And that just blew my mind, because I was feeling that. And of course, when I say that, I'm not saying that in my case, Kendra, I was mad at her, but it was sad. It was a real sadness when she left the band. So yeah, that song had a real emotional resonance for me all these years. And even when I sing it, in 2018, I think you can hear my vocal on the song. I'm still almost in tears as I sing it. And that was a first take vocal. And even with the kind of just, my voice kind of breaking, I said, I want to take that vocal. That's the one.
Wow.
I didn't sing it a second time.
It's really, the version, I think, that was something that Jeff and I and our two colleagues, Joy and Dean, that was one thing that we were in consensus, is like, we felt what you were singing and how you were singing it. I mean, it was just, we felt the emotion. It came through.
You're right. It's all there. And I thought, I could sing it again and probably do it more, because like Matt's vocal on the original version is very beautiful and very melodic, and you still feel the emotion, but it's just very perfect in a way. And I thought, I could probably try to sing it again and do a little more like a poppy or, I don't know, structured or whatever. I went, nah, that's the way it's got to be. So I left it that way. But I think about that song, by the way, it's an amazing song. And I don't know if do you play guitar or do you play any instruments at all?
Jeff.
I do a little bit.
Do you? Try to play along with that. You'll be surprised, because you think you would know how to play, and you think, it's a pretty straightforward birdsy, 1-4-5 with a minor chord thrown in kind of song. And then you start to learn, and you say, what are they doing? And I wrote to Matt about that, and he said, yes, the chords change every single line.
Wow.
No line repeats itself. It's mind-blowing. And the beauty of it is that he did something, and he said, I really admired how the Beatles always did that, and they would write songs that you would think were simple until you try to dive in and play them. And I wanted to write a song like that. So it was a beast to figure out, and we actually had to play the song with charts on a music stand, because I defy anybody to remember how to play that. I mean, if we do that live, we'll have a hard time, because it's very, very complicated.
It's deceptive, though.
I was on tour. I was on tour with Chris Kakavist from Green on Red the last couple months in Europe, and we were at soundcheck one day. And Chris is a big Rain Parade fan. Has played with Matt quite a bit. And I said, Chris, I will give you $100 right now if you can play "You Are My Friend." And he said, "Easy." He said, "Easy." He started playing. I said, "You're not going to get it." And he started playing and realized he couldn't do it. I said, "See."
Oh my God.
It's deceptive, because it does not sound like it would be that complicated. It sounds great. It sounds deceptively simple.
Yeah, well, that's a good song. That's good songwriting.
Absolutely.
And what about She Turns to Flowers? Was trying to find the right sound for Dream Syndicate to interpret that song? Did it go through some iterations, or was it just like "You Are My Friend" one take?
Well, that was my first choice as well. And although it's funny, I think that for both 3 O'Clock covering us and us covering them, even though we're friends and mutual fans and have played shows together, it's not the most natural connection, to figure out. So finding a 3 O'Clock song or a Salvation Army song, especially a 3 O'Clock song, not that we couldn't do it and couldn't have found a way to do it, but it's a little more out of our wheelhouse. So I think we lean more towards Salvation Army, which is, more of a punk type thing that we could latch on to. I thought about Mind Gardens and Happens and the first single songs, but that one was always my favorite. I mean, whenever I put together compilations for people or things like that, I put that song on a million mixtapes and stuff like that. And so I really like that song. And but the question was how to do it, because it's just you listen to the original of that song and it's insane. It's just it's an explosion. It's just like there's nothing. It's like 3 people playing and holding on for dear life the whole time, and we wanted to capture some of that. I always kind of thought the Salvation Army reminded me a lot of Husker Du, who came along I think slightly after them, and a band I liked a lot, and the way Husker Du would play also kind of mod, Who influenced, Jam influenced, kind of adrenaline-filled songs, and then just go wild and play them at warp speed. And I thought, maybe we'll do kind of a Husker Du version of it, which we end up not doing. We just sort of fell into the version we did. But we did really, the thought was, okay, here are the chords, here's the song. I have no idea, like Dennis, our drummer, Dennis Tuck, I think, I have no idea what you're going to do with this, because you couldn't imitate what Troy, the drummer who's in the band at the time, what he's doing on drums. So just let's figure it out. And actually, I'm surprised how much our version is kind of straight ahead, kind of like not chaotic at all. It's almost like it's pretty poppy.
Let me think about that let me digest that for a little bit. So you're saying your version more pop? Huh.
Yeah, I think it actually ended up being a little more kind of streamlined and pop than I originally intended it to be. I really, in my mind, when we went to the studio, I thought, yeah, let's do something off New Day Rising or Flip Your Wig, that kind of thing. And you have, like, anytime you go in the studio, you might have an idea in your head, but things will evolve the way they want to evolve, and that's the beauty of things. So in a way, the Hero Takes a Fall and You Are My Friend came out pretty much as I thought they would, going into that day, where She Turns to Flowers became a whole different thing.
Wow.
So Steve,
I was happy with that. It was, because I know I like that song, and to be honest, of the three, I didn't even know if we could even make it work, because it's just it's such a stretch from where it is, but it did.
Yeah, it did.
So did you guys actually?
That's such a great album. That Salvation Army album is such a great album. I really, I just love that album.
It's so good. Did you guys actually rehearse these three songs before going into the studio?
No, the Dream Syndicate never rehearsed much of anything then or now. we're not a band that's very big on rehearsing. Never were, not from day one. No, we do play a lot these days. We probably play about 50 shows a year, and since we reunited 5 years ago, and so we play regularly, and we tend to just show up somewhere and have a long sound check, or maybe now and then find a place to rehearse a little bit. But we don't do a whole lot of that. It doesn't really, it's not what we feel like we need to be doing. We just we like the Rorschach test approach to things. So same thing with this recording. We talked about it ahead of time. We all listened to it. Everybody practiced on their own and kind of figured out the chords. But once we got in, we did it all in one day. We had last February, we were all in Los Angeles for the Wild Honey benefit, the tribute to the Buffalo Springfield.
Right.
So we were there. We played Mr. Soul that night on a Saturday night. And one of the things about the Dream Syndicate, 21st century version is a little bit challenging, is that Dennis lives in L.A., Mark lives in Las Vegas, and Jason Victor and I live in New York. So we're pretty far apart. So we can't just get together in the garage, on the spur of the moment. We have to kind of map things out and with everyone's schedules. So we knew we had that Wild Honey show on a Saturday, and knew that we had the next day free, and said, let's go in the studio and knock them out. And we did.
Wow.
Bear in mind, we did our first EP in an afternoon. We did Days of Wine and Roses in one night. We did How Did I Find Myself Here in 5 days. So that's just kind of how we've always been.
Wow.
I love it.
Wow.
That energy is definitely felt when you listen.
Yep. It's captured.
Yeah.
It's captured.
Good. Yeah. Good. I mean, for us, it's just the way things work, and we've just who we are. We it's that kind of, it's that moment of excitement, that little flicker of the when you all hear something and respond to it for the first time. Like, I always say this, and it can sound pretentious, but I think Dream Syndicate in a lot of ways is like a jazz band, and at our best, we're just there responding to each other in real time, and that's where our live shows are. And maybe in a way, I think that's something that Matt was talking about when he said everybody wants to be in the Dream Syndicate for a day or whatever. I think all the bands have something that the other bands look at and admire. I think the thing that we do that makes us special, that is fun and liberating, is we just let it happen and hope for the best. And I'll tell you, these days we rarely have a bad show. But back in '82, back when we were starting, some of the shows we played were pretty, a pretty rough ride. But that was part of the fun.
Oh gosh!
Wow. Hey, so we did want to talk a little bit about side D of the vinyl version of 3x4, which starts off with the 3 o'clock doing Tell Me When It's Over, and I'm just imagining you in the park with your headset on and a tall cup of coffee. What went through your mind when you first heard 3 O'Clock's version of Tell Me When It's Over?
Fantastic. I just couldn't believe it. Everything about that is great. The arrangement and just Michael singing on that, and I know a few people have talked about, I think Michael's talked about, that he sang in this register. I'd never heard him singing before, which I didn't realize at the time, but he was kind of doing his tip of a hat to the way I sing. Yeah. I just heard him as trying something wild. It's incredible. I mean, it just soars when it all kicks in. The way he sings in the chorus, I really, really like it. And it's funny. That's a song that gets covered a lot. Fortunately, I've heard a lot of bands sing it. Yo La Tango does a great version of it, and I've played it with a million different people, and Peter Buck in particular is very territorial about that song. He feels like he has the insight to playing that riff that nobody else has, and he will gladly show anybody that, like, this is how you play that riff properly. So different people have their own take on what makes that song work, which is, the beauty of that song is it's so simple that if you played guitar for 6 months, you could probably play it. If you play in any band, you could learn that in one sound check. So it makes, it lends itself to an elastic interpretation. And they really found their own way into that. It was very, very much a 3 O'Clock song. I love the keyboards on it too. That's great as well. Just great.
And, I found it really interesting what you said, that now these songs really become, Rain Parade songs or Bengal songs or 3 O'Clock songs. And that's what you always say. How happy were you once you were sitting in that park, drinking that coffee and listening to the Bangles version?
Well, this is insider information. I think it's okay to say, but they recorded that actually the same place. We did our tracks at the same place. The Bangles and the Dream Syndicate recorded the same studio with our friend Kevin Jarvis out in Venice, California. So I knew they were working with him the day, and but I think a few weeks later, Vicki did her vocal and some of the guitar stuff at her home studio, and she wrote to me that day and said, "I'm really nervous about doing justice to or having the vocal work or how I'll approach it." And I just wrote back and said, "Vicki, anything you do is going to be amazing. You're Vicki Peterson. You're incredible." And I don't think she was trembling nervous, but I think she was trying to figure out her way into the song. So I was very curious to hear how it came out, and her vocal's great. I mean, it's, the thing that a lot of people who maybe started off with the hit-making Bangles wouldn't realize, who weren't there back in '82, is that they were, the most garage, the most, kind of just purely Nuggets style band of all of us. They really, and they covered all those. They would cover 7 and 7 Is by Love, and Outside Chance by the Turtles, and How's the Air Up There, which they did that on record, and Pushing Too Hard, and a few other ones. They had a knack for that type of thing. So I thought it was very cool how they pretty much brought, that's what you always say, back to the Nuggets garage song that I intended to be in the first place. Mm. So in a way, their version is closer to what I intended when I wrote it than what we did. So wow. I was very delighted to hear that. The other funny thing she did, which really cracked me up, is that they had those wild backing vocals on their version that when I heard them, I thought, that's really weird. It reminds me of the 15 Minutes version, but there's no way they were trying for that. And then Vicki told me she actually was going for that. But the one thing I don't think she realized is this kind of la 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 la, which I think that was that they went for. And I guess she wanted to cop what she thought are backing vocals on that single. But the version on the single, it's not vocals; it's my guitar through way too many chorus pedals. So I think that was what interpreted as vocals was actually the guitar messed with quite a bit.
Oh wow, that's really interesting.
There's geeky insight, yeah, but an Electric Mistress chorus pedal from 1981.
Oh,
I wish I still had it.
Oh my god!
Wow. So that brings us to the last track that's on the album, if you're listening to the vinyl, and that's When You Smile. And Rain Parade did some pretty interesting things with the arrangement, so much so when they first kicks in, and I didn't have the track listing, I didn't even know that it was When You Smile.
Yeah, and they move around the whole structure. They put verses where choruses are, and they really took huge liberties with the way it's organized, which I love. I think it's great. I mean, it's fantastic. They and I have to say, it's not often that somebody would do Dream Syndicate song with a longer version than we do. So that's pretty impressive. We're known for our long songs. I think their version is double the length of our original. So hats off to the Rain Parade.
Good point. Good point.
It's great. I mean, I love. Once again, they made it a Rain Parade song. The way they did it was with the dynamics and the ups and downs and the explosion of guitars at the end. They made it their song. And I believe from when Matt and I were writing back and forth before we all recorded, they were trying to figure out which song of ours, because what they do is so ethereal and so beautiful and so layered. I think they're trying to figure out which Dream Syndicate song would lend itself to that. And I think I suggested to Matt they do that one because I figured, this is such a delicate song to begin with. You might find your way into that one, and it was a good one for them.
Nice. Good suggestion.
Yeah. Steve, I just want to check in. It's 2 minutes to 6, and I wanted to know if you had just 5 more minutes so we can ask a couple of questions about the latest Dream Syndicate releases.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, because I know your time is valuable.
No, this is fun, and I love what you guys are doing, so I'm more than happy to do this.
Okay, then I'm going to sneak in here and ask a question I've been really trying to ask. Okay, so Steve, on your social media, you talked about that there were some limited copies available of Steve Sings Bob, which is something I'm desperately trying to get my hands onto. Obviously, by the time I made it, gone, poof, done. But I'm dying to know what was the genesis of this project for you? Because to me, it's a perfect pairing. But I'd love to hear from you. Just even if you can just tell me a couple of minutes, how did this project come up to you?
Mostly just because it's a self-release thing. I do a lot of, with all the touring I do, also have special limited edition things that I put together and sell on tour. And I've been doing Bob Dylan covers all the way back to the earliest Dream Syndicate days when we were doing we covered Outlaw Blues from the very beginning, and that's actually one of the songs on here. So I was doing I did a festival show in Italy around 2004 or 5, something like that, where I was doing a whole set of Bob Dylan songs with other musicians out there, and had the idea of putting together all the Dylan covers I'd ever done onto one CD. And really, I just pressed up 300 copies, and they were gone in a day. I had no idea. Did I expect them to go that fast? And that was that. So it's become one of those CDs that people would try to track down and sold for way too much money on eBay and Discogs and things like that. So that's always a mixed thing where you feel flattered that people are ratcheting up the value of your records, but you also feel kind of a little bit like, well, no, don't pay that much for it. That wasn't the idea. You always want people to have the music. So just this year, I was doing a lot of touring, with Chris Kakavas, as I mentioned earlier, in Europe, and Chris is on a lot of those songs. So I figured it's a good time to reissue it. And once again, they went pretty quickly. So that's, again, a nice thing. So it makes me think, tribute bands, that's where it's at. And actually, I am one. I'm actually in a Roxy Music kind of cover band that's played all of 2 shows. But maybe the next one will be Steve Sings Roxy.
Oh,
nice.
Man,
nice.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, me too. I like playing those songs. So anyway, the Steve Sings Bob is what it is. It's just a collection of the Bob Dylan songs I've covered as B-sides or outtakes or live radio broadcasts or some live things. It's just a kind of a fun compilation.
This is a song we're probably not allowed to play, and if I said why, of course we wouldn't be allowed to play it, so I won't say we're not allowed to play it. I seen the arrow on the doorpost, saying this land is condemned, all the way from New Orleans to Jerusalem. Well, I traveled through East Texas, where many a martyrs fell. No, no one can play the blues like Blind Willie McTell. Oh, well, I heard that roadhouse singing as they packing up the tents. The stars among the barren field was his only audience, and the charcoal gypsy maidens can strut their feathers well, and they know no one can sing the blues like Blind Willie McTell. All right. See that plantation burning, hear the cracking of the whip, you smell that sweet magnolia bloom and see the ghosts of slavery ships. I can hear the tribes a moaning and the undertaker's bell, and they know no one can sing the blues like Blind Willie McTell. Tell it, Chris. Oh, there's a woman by the river with some fine young handsome man. He's dressed up like a squire, bootleg whiskey in his hand. I can hear the chinging working, I hear the rebels yell, and they know no one can play the blues like Blind Willie McTell. God is in his heaven, and we all want what's his. But power and greed and corruptible sin seem to be all there is. And now I'm standing by the window of the old St. James Hotel, 'cause I know no one can sing the blues like Blind Willie McTell. Now I know no one can sing the blues like Blind Willie McTell. Now I know no one can sing the blues like Blind Willie McTell. No, 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 I know no one can sing the blues like Blind Willie
The thing about covering Bob Dylan songs, in a way, they're the hardest songs to cover because they have so many words and so many verses. And I love covering them, but they are really like doing homework. I mean, I spoke earlier about the Rain Parade thing where you had to kind of get all the chords right. That's hard, but learning 13 verses of ISIS or, that's a day's work.
Yeah, it's just a fascinating project.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't bring up How Did I Find Myself Here? So in 2017, Dream Syndicate released a new record, which was the first Dream Syndicate official record since late 80s, since Ghost Stories, I believe.
Yeah, it's like almost 30 years.
And in my opinion, it stands up to any of those earlier records. I absolutely love How Did I Find Myself Here. How was it recording after all those years? I know you've been recording music nonstop, obviously. How was it recording as Dream Syndicate?
Well, thank you, first of all. I mean, we were very, we at that point, when we made the record, been playing shows again for about, I think, 3 years at that point. And we kind of felt like we had made the rounds and played all the old songs quite a bit, and it was time to either have new songs or not do it anymore, because, after a while you have to have some kind of new inspiration. So we decided to go into the studio with a bunch of songs, and we really promised ourselves that, if it was something that was really good and worthy of what we'd done before and of people's expectations and our expectations, we put it out, and if it wasn't, we wouldn't. But it went great from the beginning. Like I said earlier, we spent 5 days in the studio and just clicked so quickly. And the funny thing about making the new record, I have to say, is that, making that record, because we actually have a newer one coming out in May, a new album coming out this May, that was already finished and recorded. But making that record, I think the biggest guardian of our history, of our whatever legacy, or expectations of what we should be, was Jason Victor, the one non-80s member. I think he was a real fan of the band. He knew all the songs. He listened to us when he was, teenager or whatever. And I think that he kept us on our guard to be doing kind of the hard thing of being close enough to representing what we had been before, but also going someplace new. And I think that's a real tough balance. I mean, as a music fan, I can't think of that many reunion records that stand up to bands' records the first time around. There are some here and there, and and lately there have been a few more, but it really has kind of been a rare thing. And there's a lot of pitfalls there, because you can do one of two things. You can either be so much of a copy of what you did before that it's almost like a parody, or you can say, well, this is who I am now, and you think, well, why did you bother? Because you're not even the band you're advertising yourself to be. And I felt like we kind of did a pretty good job of having it both ways. And, and the response was great, so we're really happy with it.
On the steering wheel, whiskey underneath the seat, carefully concealed. Odometer is turned over 3 times, but I only gotta make it cross the county line. I only gotta make it cross the county line. Pennsylvania stretches out a mighty long ways. Keep it low speed so it feels like days. Got the FM radio on the left. There's some talk shows on before and need a dad. Something happened out on 80 West. I can't figure it out. Something happened out on 80 West. I can't figure it out. I had a plan for 30 years. It changes just as easily as shifting gears. The only thing that scares me more than getting caught is to stop and think about the lies I bought. The only
That album is amazing.
And, I also want to add, then this year, 2018, there was a Record Store Day release of How We Found Ourselves Everywhere.
We did.
Which is also extremely, it's fantastic, and it's a lot of fun. And was that an easy decision to release these in live versions?
Well, I think, first of all, we had never done anything for Record Store Day before. Now we've done 2 this year. But we had never done it before. We wanted to have something, and we didn't want to just do I don't know, old things, or we wanted to do something what we're doing now. And I'll say one of the main motivations to get that record out there or that particular group of songs, was we played this festival up in the Arctic Circle in Vadsø, Norway, a city of 5,000 people, and got to play How Did I Find Myself Here with John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, and it was just he's kind of, we played with him a few times over the years. We've gotten to know him, and he's a really great guy, and I'd say he's a friend at this point, and but still playing with John Paul Jones is it's a thrill. It's like, you think of the posters on your wall when you're 14 years old and stuff like that, and seeing him at the Forum when I was, a teenager. And so, friend or no friend, years of doing this together or not, it's exciting. And to have that version, a really well-recorded, well-played version with him on there, we just had to put it out. It's like look at this. Here we are with John Paul Jones. I think, and also the other thing on that record actually is also that we had the one outtake from the record, my version of the song Kendra sang, and that was the other. So those 2 things we wanted to get out there. The timing was right, and Record Store Day. I know that people have things they love or quibbles with it, but I think it's a pretty fun thing, and anything that brings attention to new records and vinyl records and bands being experimental and playful is a good thing. So we wanted to be part of it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so on that Record Store Day release with your version of Steve's Dream, which I love, by the way. I love that version. I love both of those versions. It's really cool that you released both of those. When you originally wrote that piece, did you have Kendra in mind, or did that come later?
That came later. We went into the studio for that record with about 20 songs and recorded all the different things, and that's just one of the songs that we had, and the music part of it was really satisfying when we recorded as a band. Like, this is exciting. At the time, I didn't like my vocal or my lyrics, and I felt like, I really like this song, but I don't like what I'm doing here. And I think that's when I had the idea about Kendra. It was well, what can we do to salvage this? Like, I'm sometimes when you sing a song or write a song, you may not like what you did, but you can't think of it any other way because you just get used to it. So I just was sort of back in the corner of liking the track and not liking my part of it. So that's when I think Dennis and I were talking about it. I said, why not ask Kendra? And it was kind of like, why not ask, Sid Barrett or whatever. That's not fair to say that, because that makes it seem like I think Kendra is like a recluse, which she's not. That's kind of overstated. But it was kind of like thinking, well, she's not going to say yes. And she did. It was incredible.
Wow.
So, but I think after she did her version, we put on the record, I went back months later to the version I sang and thought, it's not that bad after all. Let's put it out. It's just a different take on the whole thing.
No, right. I'm so glad you did that.
I like them both now, but at the time I think I just felt frustrated because I felt like I wasn't getting where I wanted to with it. And she really did. What she did was amazing. It was fantastic.
Yeah, she did a great job. And I'm so glad that you did release the original version.
I like it now.
I keep having the same dream over and over again. I bristle at simplistic explanation, textbook psychological examination, a monkey in the lab under lock and key could demonstrate more complexity. I keep having the same dream. I keep having the same dream. I keep having the same dream over and over again. Train myself to master lucidity, like something I saw talking late at night on TV. I fly like a traveler through time and space, always end up coming back to the same place. I keep having the same dream. I keep having the same dream. I keep having the same dream over and over again. A lifetime spent adapting both poise and grace, measured by the deepening lines on my face. I hear voices from faces I never see, but every voice sounds just like me. I keep having the same dream. 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 I keep having the same dream.
Okay, so you've talked about new Dream Syndicate release May of 19,
Yes.
right? Okay, so you heard it here first, folks.
That's
What
true.
else? I mean, Steve, you are just nonstop. I love watching your social media because you're here, you're there, you're here, you're there. I mean, you are all over the place, playing and interacting. And I mean, it's just cool to watch. Anything else? Roxy Music Tribute Band, New Dream Syndicate.
Well, I mean,
What else?
I like that I get to do this. I mean, I really, we've talked a lot in this interview about 1982 and 81, and if you would have told me back then that almost 40 years later I'd be doing this for a living, doing it all the time, getting to make new records and write new songs and play with different people, I would have thought you were insane. Like that seemed like an impossible dream. So I try to keep active and busy and try different things, and not everything always works, but it's better to try things and dust yourself off and try another thing than to do nothing. So it's and right now the Dream Syndicate's a main focus because things are going so well, and people are really happy about what we're doing and the shows we play. So we're going to keep that active. But there's always a lot going on. I mean, there's going to be a new baseball project record probably next year.
That they wrote our days and nights in a leaky boat, washed ashore with spinning wood. Coast Guard got me before Castro could. Cool my heels Bahamas way, while the Yankees worked out my papers and pay. A few months later, after many queries, I was pitching in the World Series. And they say, hey, what a story, and it's hard not to agree. And they say, can you believe it? Man, you have no idea. Hola, America. Hola. Wife and kin, and for all the money that you're pulling down, they don't feel that good when they're not around. And they say it's never easy, and I say I must agree. And they say, does it get lonely? Man, you have no idea. Hola.
Band might have to play around the night that the band gets inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I think we'll probably do something around then for sure. But yeah, just keeping it all active. Who knows? Maybe more Paisley Underground stuff. I can tell you that there's a real desire to bring that record to the stage somehow. We don't know how it's going to work and how, where, or when, but there's a real determination. So that'll probably happen as well.
You just gave me 3 things that, if I had a list to Santa, I'd ask for. So, all right. I'm ready.
I hope it's a good year for you guys and for everything. That's good shit. And musically, we'll do our best to make it that way.
Can't wait.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. We really, really enjoyed talking to you. We're huge fans. I will say that you've got to be the hardest working guy out of the Paisley Underground and consistently writing songs for all of these years that are great, that we love listening to. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk. We're hoping that our listeners will go out and buy your book, The Complete Lyrics, 1982 to 2017. All of your releases, and certainly 3x4 when the official release comes out. I think it's now been pushed to February 22nd due to huge demand. So for any of you that didn't grab it on Record Store Day, please go out and grab it. It's an amazing record.
Spectacular. Yeah.
And
thank you very much. And good luck to you guys. I subscribe to your podcast, so I'll be hearing your episodes. So keep it going.
Thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll be listening. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Steve. We really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye.
How awesome is Steve Wynn?
The best.
How awesome is Steve Wynn?
You know what? We were talking earlier about having a privilege of speaking to musicians, artists that we've adored for years, right? And there's that saying that you need to be careful meeting your heroes, right? Because they can end up being not as wonderful as you had expected. And I've had occasions where that has been the case, where I've met people that I've really respected and was disappointed after meeting them. And it could just be that one time. You got to give people the benefit of the doubt, because there's always everybody doesn't have a great day every day. But these people that we've talked to that are part of the Paisley Underground have all been amazing. And Steve Wynn is certainly one of those people that are just incredible to talk to and very gracious and live up to everything we hope that they would be, right?
Yes. You said it perfectly.
Despite his concerns at the beginning, seems to have a great memory of things that have happened a long, long time ago. And like we've mentioned, he is not one of those kind of people that sit on his laurels, right? I mean, this guy has been touring, recording, writing, painting, all of this stuff nonstop, right? I mean, he said himself...
Here's what I like about him. Here's what I like about him. He gets inspired by a lot of different things, and he just kind of goes with it. Like when he was talking about how, and I mean, I think Dean was the one who mentioned it when we did the 3x4 review, which for those of you who haven't heard it, you won't be able to hear it until we get the general release in February. So just hold your horses. But Dean said, Jason really, I mean, he's got this real spirit and he just kind of like he pumps a lot of energy into that band, and then they can just like go off. The fact that he said, you know, we don't really rehearse. We might do a long sound check, but we kind of go with the flow and just kind of plug in and play off of each other. I think that's why those shows are so just, I can't even think of the word. They're just like, they are out there. Like, they're galactic.
To me,
because they just start and then they build, and then it, you know, he'll just play, you know, 13 minutes. Oh, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool that, you know, Dennis and Jason and, you know, Steve and Mark, like, you know, that there's nothing, it's not too pre-planned to allow them to improvise. Like he said, we're more like a jazz band.
Yeah.
I think anyone who's ever seen Dream Syndicate live can see, you know, there's a lot of improv with how they do it. Like there's kind of a basic structure, but they really do kind of play a little bit.
Yeah. And
I don't know about you, dude, but I'm buzzy. That is so cool.
Me too. But
cool.
That excitement really comes across on stage. I mentioned on the 3x4 podcast that, and as much as I love their recordings, and I do love the Dream Syndicate recordings, their live performances are off the chain. I mean, they're amazing. And now that Steve mentioned that part about not rehearsing, there's something that I've noticed about them when they play live is their eye contact.
With each other?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it totally fits in, as Steve was saying, that they're almost like a jazz band in that they're feeding off each other on stage. And I can absolutely see that when I'm standing in the audience front row watching Dream Syndicate play, that they're just feeding off each other. And what's happening is happening right there. It's not something that was like pre-planned. There may be, the skeletal outline, but what happens on stage is spontaneous, and that energy is being created right at that point. And to me, that's what makes watching a Dream Syndicate show so exciting.
Yeah. It's really interesting, because, and, I've talked about it, and I think Joy also mentioned it before. When I saw the Paisley Underground reunion show, that was my first time seeing Dream Syndicate live. And exactly what you're talking about, that kind of eye contact that they have with one another is really evident. It's clear as day. And then they really play well off of one another, and they'll just take it as long as it needs to go. And that's why sometimes you get, I always talk about, oh, here we go, a 13-minute version of Days of Wine and Roses. But I also see, now I really understand, a lot of that is just simply they're going with the flow.
Yeah.
And then the two versions, Steve's Dream and Kendra's Dream, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that he talked about that.
Yeah. I was wondering about the origins of that. And
Oh God.
I love both versions equally.
And I love how he said, it would be as if, you were going to reach out to Syd Barrett, like kind of, I'm going to reach out, but I don't know. And then her saying yes. It's cool.
Yeah. And how about the realization that Rain Parade does a longer version of a Dream Syndicate song than Dream Syndicate does?
All I got to say is, Jeff, thank God, thank the heavens that you're a musician, because as he started breaking down that the particularities of You Are My Friend, I don't play music. I have no musical sensibility whatsoever, and I got lost, but you were able to follow that. And then now, but I will say this, it's information for the next time when I listen to it, because you're right, it is a deceptively, it's deceptively simple. And then to hear Steve go, no, that's a really hard song to play, and I'll tell you why. It's because of this and this and this and this. And him telling Chris Kakovitz, okay, I'll give you $100 if you play it. And Chris Kakovitz goes, yeah, mama, and couldn't do it. It just shows me how well thought out all these arrangements are, all these songs are, things that I think as a younger fan and listener, I just took for granted.
Yep.
I just like the melody. And then when you hear someone break it down and say, this is hard to replicate and it takes time, and I gotta have a chart in front of me so I can play it.
Yeah.
Now I want you to play it, Jeff.
I couldn't do it, not even for $100.
Oh my God.
That was a great story.
Wow. I'm sorry, this was cool. I think I've had this kind of mouth agog reaction for every interview we've had. With Danny, with Michael, with Steve, with Matt Pucci, with Permanent Green Light, with Matt Devine and Chris Bruckner. I've had these reactions with everybody, and Lena Litonwa. I've had all these reactions, but wow. It's just cool. We have a pretty interesting side project.
Absolutely. Well, we should wrap up the podcast.
Should we?
We should. So we did want to make the announcement that our 3x4 podcast had to be temporarily pulled down by request due to the exclusive nature of the Record Store Day release. It's a limited release, and we included songs on that podcast. So we will have to wait until the record is officially released to re-release our podcast. So if you're looking for that, you won't find it, at least until February, until we can re-release that again. And we're going to take a little bit of time off for the holidays. So after we release this Steve Wynn episode, we probably won't see podcasts until the very end of the year or maybe even early January when we're expecting to do an album highlight series.
Yes.
So that should be good. And as always, you could find Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme on iTunes, on Facebook, on Podbean. There's multiple areas where you can
Twitter
find us.
and Instagram.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to make any comments and you wanted to send in an audio file, we'd be more than happy to play it on the show. Just send it to our Gmail account at paisleystagerandr@gmail.com. So that's Paisley Stage, the letter R, ANDR @gmail.com. If you wanted to send us an audio file, we'd love to slip that in on our podcast as well. And with that, Soraya?
Gente, agrubiar, happy holidays, happy new year. We'll be talking to you soon.
Absolutely. Groove on, Paisley people.
Later.
Soraya?
What? Sorry, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Oh my.
That was awesome!